Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more. March break is coming up, and with that, there are a lot of you out there that may be planning trips with your baby, and that may fill you with a little bit of excitement and anticipation, and also dread and fear about what going away will do for your baby's sleep and for the routine. We're going to talk about that today. I have some overarching ideas that I have accumulated through parenting 3 children, through vacations, as well as the clients I work with. So I also have some practical strategies to add at the end. So if you are planning on going away for March break or in the future as summer approaches, because spring really is truly around the corner, then have a listen and let's dive in. One of the biggest reservations that I find families have when they're planning a trip, especially after sleep has been going poorly, and now it's getting better, and there's a routine, and there's consistency, and sleep is going more smoothly, is this worry that going away will unravel all of that, that everything will go back to the way it was before, and that maybe it's not worth going away at all, and that fear and trepidation can really put, obviously, a huge damper on something that should be really exciting. I want to share that in my view, there really is never, quote unquote, going back. Now, there are things that interrupt sleep. There are things that make it feel like it's sliding backwards and getting worse again, but development is always moving forward. So the kiddo you bring home from vacation is different than the one you brought. And the kiddo that you are parenting right now is different than the kiddo from 3 months ago. Because development is always moving forward, you couldn't make things go back to the way they were, even if you tried. And if things fall apart, if the worst case scenario, that nightmare that you have about things really not working so well with sleep, if that actually happens, if that comes to fruition, know that it is not a big slide backwards because you are not back there in time. We don't time travel. We can't go back. Instead, look at it as being a temporary blip on the road forward. And it might feel like a pretty big blip. It might feel like if this is a pothole of life, that it's a pothole that's bottoming out your car. I use an analogy a lot with parents, and it's the spiral analogy. They use it a lot in therapy. Think of a slinky where if you have it flat on your desk, sitting flat on its end, and you look at it from the top, and you trace your finger around, you're going around and around in circles. And so often when things get better and then they get worse, it just feels like we're back on that one part of that ever-turning circle, back to where it was really bad. And then you hope that it gets better, but you just feel like you're going round and round. Instead, I want you to think about lifting that slinky up so that it's extending really tall, like a foot long, coming up from your desk. And now consider looking at it from the side and tracing with your eyes that spiral. You're still going around and around, but you're actually moving up and up and up and up towards the top. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about not ever really going back. There will be times that things get hard again. When we interrupt routines and rhythm, yes, there can be some challenges. There are a lot of things we can't control on a vacation too. And so it can get a little bumpy. But if you think about that spiral, you're not going back, you're always going up. And you are in a different place right now than you were a month ago. Your baby's sleep development and overall development is in a different place than it was before. Now, I talked about the fear and trepidation. And hopefully that spiral analogy helps you understand that it's that fear of sliding back is just not really what's going to be happening. But the worry about any interruption, particularly for those of you who have been through the ringer with sleep, the fear often, not always, but often, is greater than what the outcome actually is on vacation. In fact, I've had a fair number of families that come back from vacation elated that sleep was great, so much easier than at home. And I have a bit of a theory on that, but I first want to speak to this idea of letting go of the fear so that you don't let it overrun what the outcome could possibly be. Because we know our nervous systems are tied to our baby's nervous systems. The more fear or anxiety that we have, the harder it's going to be to get sleep to go more smoothly. So when it is going better, though, and again, I've had this happen a lot with clients, I think there's a few reasons. One is when we go on vacation, we have to let go of some of the control. It's a new place, new people, new smells, new sights, new room that you're sleeping in. We inevitably have to let go of some of the control. And that can do wonders for just letting things unfold in an easier way without trying to manipulate and control and push all the levers and push all the buttons. The other piece when we're away is often we are more relaxed in at least some ways. I know there's a lot of thinking and preparing and planning that has to go into vacations, but often we're more relaxed because when it's a vacation, we're usually choosing to be there. It's a place we want to be, or a place we've chosen to go. We're enjoying it. It's somewhere nice, presumably. And so when you're somewhere that you are happy to be, and it's a little bit of a nice shift from the day-to-day, that slog of being at home where that sink is always full of dishes and the floor is full of crumbs, it can do wonders to be in a more relaxed state yourself for approaching bedtimes and helping your baby fall asleep. So I want you, if you're feeling a lot of fear or trepidation moving towards vacation, to know that you can unlink the fear of what you think will happen with what's actually going to happen. Uncouple those two things. They are separate things. Then you can manage and look at the fear that you have about going away. Maybe fear is too strong a word. Trepidation, nervousness, worry, concern, that is separate from what's actually going to happen. So separate those two things. Manage your worry about going away. Plan the things that you have control over and let go of the things you don't. And when it comes to the vacation time, go into that vacation ready to enjoy it and savor it and get what you can from being away. The third perspective that I want to share is that environment is key. Now, some of you might be thinking, yeah, but Heather, that we're not in control of the environment when we're away. We're sharing a room with relatives. We don't have control over what time the flight is. We don't have control over how noisy the hall is in the hotel when we're trying to get our baby to sleep. And yes, those are the things we don't have control over. However, when it comes to babies, the key part of the environment, the most important part, the thing that they are looking to make sure that they feel safe and they know everything is right in the world, is you. So you are the key part of their environment. So no matter where you are, what transportation you're taking, what kind of place you're staying in, it is you that is the foundation of them feeling safe and secure. So think of yourself as the key to their environment. But there's more to environment than that. Obviously, there are things that you can do to support an environment that's going to help your baby sleep while you're away. One is familiar routines. Now, I know I just said routines get thrown off with vacations, and they do. There's all sorts of different things to do and a different kind of schedule. I want you to boil down familiar routines to the very core essence of what you do at bedtime. These might be things that you've been doing so often that you don't even think about them anymore. Think about the way you rock them, the way you hold them when you're nursing them, the way you sing to them or rub their back. Those are things that can happen anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter if you're staying in a room above a pub in London, England, or whether you're camping in the desert, you can do the things that are fundamental to the routine that helps your baby sleep. I would also suggest that you look for, as you lead up into vacation, what are the things that really matter to you and your baby? I'm going to put an emphasis on you. I was talking with parents this week about the importance of doing things that you enjoy in the bedtime routine. So take a peek at what works for your baby, but pay attention to what brings some joy and familiarity and comfort to you when you're going through the bedtime routine. Those are the key pieces to take away with you. I had a family member once that was visiting us from out of town, and they were staying in a hotel room, and their baby was not falling asleep. He was a toddler by this point. couldn't get this kiddo to sleep. It was taking forever. And they were away probably for one of the first times in this kiddo's life, and he just wasn't going down. Finally, another family member came in and started singing a song that used to be sung to him when he was a really little baby. And she just kept singing the song and stroking him and just kept singing, and he fell right asleep. Now, of course, he'd been awake for a while, so maybe he would have fallen asleep anyway, but this really felt like something that switched over into helping him fall asleep. That familiarity was a song that he hadn't heard in a very long time, but it triggered something comforting and secure and safe for him. So don't be afraid to mix it up and bring in some of the tools that maybe have fallen by the wayside that you don't use anymore. Just keep it open to bringing in that familiarity without having necessarily all the control over everything that's happening. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some practical tips. Those are some overarching ideas. I want you to start by thinking about what are some key things that you can bring for familiarity other than you. Pay attention to the things that are key, because you don't want to have to bring the big white noise machine and the humidifier and I don't know, whatever else you might, the mobile that's hanging up above them, or the light display that you play as part of bedtime, or the box of 10 books. We're going to trim it down to the basics. So I want you to pay attention to what is it that really matters to you and your baby at bedtime. It could be a blankie or a stuffy that are relatively easy to pack. It could be a small night light that just brings that nice sense of familiarity, even in a new room. And of course, again, you're bringing you. And that's primary. It's also valuable to keep the routine, but keep it to the basics. You're not going to want to miss out on everything that your vacation has to offer in order to stick to a stringent routine. And the most severe I've ever seen this happen was a parent who was following, I think, Montessori principles, or maybe it was Waldorf principles, who talk a lot about consistency. And so they didn't want to even sign their kiddo up for swimming lessons because that means Wednesdays are going to be different than Tuesdays. That's not the kind of routine we're going for. We're looking for what are the basics that are going to really bring them into sleep. Pay attention to them leading up to vacation so you can use them well. If you need to bring a book, but don't bring 10. Things are going to be mixed up. Things are going to be different. If you're used to reading 10 books to your kids, I don't know many parents who do, but if you do, cut it to the basics. What is the one book that's going to really clinch this for you? I also want you to bring some flexibility and compassion. The flexibility part is about saying yes to the opportunities on vacation, even if there may be a consequence for sleep or routine. It does not mean saying yes to everything, but it does mean not saying no to everything too. Ages ago, when we had 2 kids and my youngest was under a year, and we had a preschooler, just turned 3-year-old. And our 3-year-old was the late night kiddo. Didn't have high sleep needs, could be up really late. Bedtime was hard at home anyway. And then we had our youngest who was a real sleeper. Like, I was really, really glad there was room service in the room because he was a kiddo that needed a nap in the room. Thankfully, we also had a balcony. So I basically just read out on the balcony and I could still look out at the sun. It may not have been ideal, but it was actually, for me at that point in my life, a busy mom of 2, staying home, getting a chance to just sit on a balcony with a book while my easier rockin' it sleeper was sleeping in the hotel room was just wonderful. So where was I going with this, though? The flexibility piece. We had this late night kiddo. My vision of staying at a resort for only the second time in my life was family meals in the restaurants. But by dinner time, our youngest was ready for bed and our oldest was not at all ready. And so what we ended up doing is dividing up. We had one parent in the hotel room with the kiddo that needed to go to sleep or he would be absolutely rangy. That was a lot to handle on a vacation. I wanted things to be relatively calm and easy. And the other parent would go to the restaurant with our 3-year-old. Again, not ideal, but we leaned into this. This is the flexibility and compassion part of it. We had compassion with the process and flexibility to know that even though my ideal vision was the 4 of us sitting together for dinner, the fact that one of us every other night would be spending dinner or one-on-one time with my 3-year-old whose life now included a little brother who was very demanding at this age, had lots of needs, a lot of attention was required. He had one-on-one devoted time with a parent in a restaurant, eating. He loved to eat. And some of our fondest memories from that trip are these one-on-one dinners. I took him out to a sushi bar at the resort, and I have a little video of it, and it is one of our kind of family stories, is that night that I took him out to that sushi bar. And that video that I have of him eating sushi at that bar is I think it's one of his core memories. And we knew that by staying out late, trying to get a table at, whatever the scheduled time was with our youngest, was going to make our youngest so rangy and overtired that part of it wasn't worth it. However, we didn't abandon the entire family meal thing fully. The last night that we were there, we had dinner on the beach. It was an outdoor Mexican dinner. And yes, our baby was up a little bit too late, but we were outside, so I didn't feel as nervous about the noise and the mess. He was eating solids on a high chair tray. So in restaurants, it would have been me worrying about how far was he going to fling this food item and was it going to hit anybody. Outside, none of that really seemed to matter. We had the sound of the waves. And the photos from that night, too, just bring such fond memories that, yes, he was overtired and excited, but he was also very happy, and so was I. So if you are planning a trip in the coming weeks or months, I want you to take a little piece. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap here. Know that you are the foundation of the routine. So no matter what else is happening, you are the core. The other is to bring that flexibility and compassion to enjoy your vacation without getting hooked on exactly how that vacation should look. It's not going to look the same with kids as it did when you traveled before, but it can still be lovely and it can still honor your baby's sleep needs without worrying too much about making things exactly the same as they are at home. And you may be surprised between you feeling good about being away and getting away and having a change, and your baby being able to turn to you for the really core, consistent routine pieces for their sleep, you may actually find, pleasantly, that they're sleeping better. Wherever you end up going on your next travels, safe travels, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.